Okay, well, I can't find my name.
Now, what you do need, though, is the check black and white.
I know,
because that
sorry.
obviously is the thing.
I didn't get that. Can I have this water?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, why?
Oh, great.
Okay. All right, welcome. This is the first of what we hope will be a few round. It's not really round, but discussions, panel discussions regarding various instructional practices that people are using. Try to give you some background to it. Have you actually hear from people who are within the district and using it. We have 3 high school teachers here, and I'll have them introduce themselves in a second. We had 2 first grade teachers. Both of them had to end up canceling. Was a little bummed about that because I do want people to see how blogging has some use in classrooms beyond the high school. I think sometimes we tend to think that it's only something that high school and junior high will use. So if we get a chance, I can share a little bit about what those first grade teachers are doing. But we'll start by having you introduce yourself. What do you teach?
How we use our blog yet or not yet?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm Rachel Adams. I teach at the high school. I teach U.S. history and elements of geography.
My name is Barb Katz, and I teach government at all levels, and comparative political systems is the one that I use the blog for.
I'm Courtney Edelman, and I teach expository writing and American Studies and LA 11.
Okay. So now, I think the first question is, what do you have kids create in terms of blogs? Mm-hmm. What's the format?
Students use blogs in my classroom to do current events. And so every week they will, students are assigned a week and they have to post a current event that connects to something we're doing in class. So it's a history class. And so something historical still is something they can apply to what's going on in our society today. So terms or policies, they post that, and then it turns into a live discussion between their peers. And so different peers will, they post a question about the news article, and then they will discuss back and forth with their peers via comments later.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you grade it?
Graded. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's what ultimately I got some questions like, is it formal writing? Is it informal writing? So at some point we'll kind of deal with that from all 3, because I know there are different ways of how blogs are handled. I think Bart, yours probably an example of one that's not a
blog, a real blog.
It's not a real blog, and it's not maybe that formal writing. But go ahead and talk about what you do.
Well, like I said, I use it for comparative political systems, and it's a highly motivated group of kids. And so it's not that I force them to do it. It's most of them want to do it because they're helping each other. So they're asking questions about the content. They're asking questions about what does she mean? What does she want? And what does the text mean? And they need to come to class ready, prepared to use the material so that they're giving themselves background and helping each other through things. But having said that, I still do grade it so that if somebody poses a question, I'm looking to see who was there to answer, and I'm seeing who is asking insightful, interesting questions, and getting more deep into the material. And
if I saw 58 pages or something like that, it ended up being by the end of a semester.
Right.
Okay.
I have used blogs in expository writing for their persuasive or argumentative unit, but currently I use it in LA 11. Ryan Lindley and Kayla Anderson also teach LA 11, and we've used it as a way of kind of culminating their problem-based learning situation that they're given for each unit of study. So trying to give them, from whatever problem they're trying to tackle that unit or whatever viewpoint they're coming at it, a more authentic way to start to express what they found and interact with each other, although we found some difficulties with getting them to interact with each other as much as we want.
Well, and again, it's one of those things where I've got like a list of questions here. That idea of being authentic with a blog, like talk about that a little bit more. Do you see, and one of the things also is, what are the positives, what are the negatives? And we don't want people to, if you have negatives, what have you come across? But that authentic, it's no longer just writing for you anymore.
Well, that's what we were hoping it would mean more with a real world audience. We've gone back and forth from a couple different platforms of, how we have what we have them create their blog on. I started out with EduBlogs, which was a paid service, but I had control over it so that I owned all of the blogs. And so I could see what kinds of comments they're making. I could approve things so that I had that oversight. I maybe liked it better than my co-teachers with that one, because I had done some exploration of it and felt a little bit more comfortable with it. Students didn't like it so much. They felt like in order to set up and get the look that they wanted, there were too many, the learning curve was a little steep, I guess, for the amount of time that we wanted to devote to it. We're using Google Sites now, but there's still been some difficulty with students adding comments to seeing each other's blogs, adding comments. So it's taken what should have been more of an authentic and broader audience and really just kind of reduced it to I'm seeing what they write on their blog, which then we're starting to say, well, so is it really a blog, or is it just a different way of turning in the same classroom assignment? So that's one of the things we've struggled with, was getting that readership to be as broad as we wanted it.
Okay. Right, Rachel, same.
Yeah, so mine is different. I mean, I don't use the Google Sites to do that. I have my own class website. And so students post, I get to edit it first. So I get to see what they post, get to see what they wrote, the question they asked before it goes live. That way it's not, because I want it to be less about the formal writing aspect of it and more of a, like, just having a discussion online with your peers. And so they'll post, and then all their comments also still come through me. But for the most part, unless it's a blatant, completely disrespectful comment or completely unfactual, if it's their opinion backed up, any opinion goes up there and they can discuss back and forth. And I don't want it, because they get graded so much formally in my class, that I've let it be more of a kind of relaxed writing platform for that process. But I think it's nice because they do get to see their classmates work and they do get to actually talk back and forth. And not every post leans itself to that, but sometimes they can get in a nice back and forth with the classmate about that topic.
And does that happen?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. It depends on the topic. Obviously, the current election, when we had a post about a topic with the election, some students went back and forth on that issue.
Really?
Yeah,
This
I know.
this latest election?
I know. It's hard to believe, but it did actually happen in my class. So
is you having to monitor it before it goes live, then is that difficult in how much work you have looking at it all the time, or you having the time and then giving them the time?
So I think for myself, the first year was very overwhelming, and I questioned my sanity a couple times in that. But now I have like certain days that it's part of my grading routine. So Sunday nights are when I check blog posts. I go through and I say, okay, are all the posts ready to go? Are all of them set up? And I have them post later. And then Tuesday or Thursday, I'll check comments that week and double check that they're all doing well. And then if I have downtime, I'll check comments. But generally speaking, I don't start the current events until 3 weeks in to the class, and I've kind of set up my expectations and reminded them, remember, Miss Adams reads this before you all get to see it, and they know my expectations about using specifics to back up your opinions. I've really only had 2 cases where I had to email a student and be like, you need to come in and see me about the comments you had, but generally a quick read through, you're like, because you're not grading for grammar, you're grading for opinion and that, so it takes a quick glance to do that. But I have had a couple students where I had to stop and say, look at what you typed. This is not appropriate. Here's why, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it did take absolutely a little bit of learning to, when am I going to have time to do this? Yeah. So
I look at it nightly, and it started out many years ago as a Yahoo chat room because kids would have questions, and that I said to them that I would look at it at 10 p.m. So if you have a question for me about something, that I would be on and I would answer questions. And so then I will look at it later at night. But again, the group of kids is a much smaller, self-selecting. It's not the entire class, and or the grade level. So I've never had any problems with those kinds of things. but people have answered questions that are just wrong,
Mhm.
right? That they don't understand the information. And then it's wonderful when other students can step up and say, no, you're not understanding it this way. At least this is what I think. And then I can go get in there and say, actually, this is right. And then, have it as classroom material as well.
Well,
That's good.
talk about that idea, and we're going to go back to that authentic idea. Is it authentic to have to moderate
Mhm.
every post, to have to moderate every comment? What would happen if you let kids? I mean, obviously you're going to
Mhm.
look at it and monitor it, but like, do you monitor every post? I'm not trying to put you on this. Do
No.
you approve every post?
No, I don't
No,
approve every
okay.
post, and that's we didn't, even with our edu blogs, we didn't have it where I had to approve it in advance. It was, I guess, when it would be more of a reactive kind of thing, and it's there. I can see it. I can hold you accountable after the fact. If you
Okay.
if you put on there something that's not classroom appropriate, but see, I think I like that they are picking the topics.
Mhm.
With ours, like, we had them do a soapbox blog post. So they're picking some sort of topic that they feel passionately about, and then they're, stepping up their soapbox. We talked about speech techniques and devices for delivering your message, and they try to emulate one of our authors, and they do that. That's one that they care more about because it's their opinion, but because ours is within that, I guess, within the context of our problem-based learning situation, that's where I think ours falls short.
Mhm.
That, okay, I'm still writing about something that I wouldn't naturally go out and write about. What we're hoping to do is say, hey, look, you can express yourself in this blog, and here's some features of a blog. There's a visual aspect to it, and how do you pull people in who don't have to sit down and read your writing? How do you make them want to come back and follow you, to inspire them to be writers after they leave our class? But I'm not sure that transfer happens completely because, like I say, we've situated it so much within.
But you've given
A
them the
setting,
skill. You've given them the skill so
hopefully.
that some of them will remember
Right.
and do that.
So the authenticity of ours is still, we're
Yeah.
still trying to.
So to answer your question about just letting them go, and I don't know if this applies, but I did the Today's Meet for the first time, and that's rather bloggish. That's tweeting. I don't know if
Yeah, it's that
similar.
back channeling
And-
idea.
And so, they were role playing. So they had to speak as a liberal Democrat, as a conservative Republican, or a moderate this or a moderate that. And so, and they were like, wait a second, why isn't this person asking this question? Or they answered it wrong. They're supposed to be role playing this. How can?
Mhm.
And so, they were engaging with each other on all these
Mhm.
different things, and it wasn't what I believe. And I think that made it easier for them to counter each other because they're role playing.
Mhm.
The thing that is different, and so back to your question of, so what if you just, like, how plausible is it that you're going to get a whole bunch of inappropriate comments or something like that? I think less so in a blogging situation, more so in Today's Meet, because Today's Meet with some of the groups that I've used it with, it's that instant,
Mhm.
like, ooh, if I just make this
Without
totally
checking the
offhand comment,
Mhm.
I'm going to get a laugh from this person, or I'm going to get as opposed to, okay, if I'm going to put that comment on the blog, I'm not going to be able to see their reaction. And so I think they take it maybe
Mhm.
there's less of an inclination to do that.
And I
maybe.
think maybe, at least in my, I teach, this is to juniors, right? And yours is to seniors generally.
Right, and mine is
Um,
juniors and less expository.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things that for authentic learning, I go through when we first introduce this is a skill. You have to know how to have a presence on the internet
Mhm.
in a blog setting. And so that's part of why I do this is I want you to be able, I need to be able to check it because I don't want you to put an opinion out there that's completely it's gonna make you look ridiculous. I want to guard that of my students. But at the same time, like, you're having a presence on the internet, you're saying things, and so it's not grammar filled, it's not that type of stuff. Like, what type of information you want to have on it versus yours, which is helping each other out, building that community. But I think it's good, like, if they do mess up, it's a teachable moment. But again, we teach older students who even if I didn't check it, even if I didn't proof the comments before they went live, very rarely would I not trust them to keep a monitor knowing that I'm still seeing this.
Right. And it's an issue of the respect that you have in the classroom.
Mhm.
That I have heard teachers of the same students as me say, I can't control them. where I can,
Mhm.
right? It's just like, you know,
Yeah.
so it's who you are, and your presence in the classroom helps, I think, a tremendous lot. But then when you teach an entire, you know, year of kids, I mean, you get every, you
Mhm.
know.
Now, what about the idea of like truly getting others, not just themselves, to read the blogs?
Mhm.
Would you be open to working with a class or classes from somewhere else that now you and it becomes difficult because you can't control
Mhm.
technically what the other class does, but
But if they're seniors, as mine are, and if you're trying to get
Mhm.
them to deal with people out in the real world, and some
Mhm.
people are going to be jerks and some are not.
Mhm.
I mean, if there was another CPS class, which there are, another AP class that did it, I think that'd be fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, to have, you know, the cross, you know.
And
that would be
blogs is
really
a good
interesting.
place to do that too, because it's not necessarily a letter you're writing to somebody. It's blogs can be treated as a discussion with somebody from a different place about a topic, which would be really cool.
do you think, I mean, one of the big, with the election just ending, the idea of what is factual anymore, and do you think, is there the possibility that having kids write blogs and see that it truly is their opinion, does that help them distinguish why a blog maybe isn't always a good thing to use as a factual piece? I don't know if that made sense at all. Like, does going through that process, does it just get them to say, well, I can say whatever I want to say because it's my opinion? Or do they actually then step back and say, oh, now I know why I shouldn't use this person's because it took me 20 minutes to write mine?
Well, I mean, we talk about that in terms of sources and research and that kind of thing. But I think another factor to this is the limitation. They can't look at blogs through our securely. They couldn't look at them through Sophos. So when when we start talking about blogs, you know, I have to show them up on the screen. They can't search. There would be more opportunity if they could really get in and start being critical about some blogs within the classroom setting. Now, you could say go home and do it. They're still not going to be able to do it through our filter, but I mean, you know, if it was a home computer or something, but they're not going to, most of them.
And my gut reaction
the junior.
goes the other direction that I think you were going in, because look, it is fact. I mean, I wrote that. Look how good that is. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and that's what I wonder. I mean,
go the other direction.
Yeah.
Well, I think more so, not necessarily with my blog, but with the research papers, to be able to say if a student uses a blog as when we do annotated bibs, we have to check and make sure their sources are correct. And so when we're doing that, and I see people who have put blogs as a credible source, have that discussion like, my classroom is a blog, right? How credible is your neighbor's opinion about this situation? That person's not an expert. They haven't gone to school. They haven't been trained. They don't have primary sources to back it up to have a
if they are
discussion.
an expert, because I also,
Right.
as sophomores, have to do a serious research paper for the honors class. And no, if it's a blog, that means that the newspaper did not want to publish it.
Right.
I mean, there's
Well,
a reason
and
why.
I was just going to say, I've even noticed when people, whether it's on Twitter or Facebook, and they'll say, and I'm probably guilty of it, read that this is an awesome article.
Mhm.
And then when I really step
not
back,
an
it's like, wait a
article.
second, it's
It's not
not
an
really an
It's not a
article.
peer review.
But
Yeah.
anymore, it's almost like, I mean, I read this article that talked about how newspapers now are requiring, if you are a reporter, they're requiring X number of blog posts every single day. Well, aren't those blog posts articles? Now, if you got to do so many a day,
Right.
they're probably not fleshed out the way that
Right.
you know they would be.
Right.
Actually, you didn't know there was going to be questions.
No.
We've got a teacher in the district who said, "Do you see a blog of any type being beneficial for second graders?" And again, that's one of the issues
Well,
with not
you
having
tell
the first
us.
grade.
Why
Yeah,
don't you
that,
tell us what the first graders were going to do.
well, and the answer is yes. I do think there's a benefit because to me, blogs it's a way to formulate your thoughts. It's a way to share something that you are thinking. And like Courtney, you said, that's one of the places that you think maybe what the LA 11 kids are doing maybe falls a little short. I know in first grade they're using, and I don't know, I'll see if I can share this because I think for those people who aren't familiar with Seesaw, they actually use, this is Sam McKee's. And what they do, let's see if I can, what they do, and it's interesting, I think sometimes we think about blogging as just written, but you could put a V before, replace the B with a V,
right.
and now you have a vlog. This is a similar kind of thing. She asked, and Sam, pardon me if you watch this and I got it a little wrong, they kind of report out in groups each week, this is what we've learned. And in this case, I think she's assigning them, like, why doesn't, and I'm assuming this is like the whale group, why doesn't the whale group talk about something that you learned over the week? This is in video form. The kids are able to post and comment on each other's. And in this case, the parents are able to post and comment on each other's. If you've not seen Seesaw and don't use Seesaw, it's an online, it's always hard for me to describe. It's an online journal is basically what it is. And grade school teachers, most high school teachers tend to look at Seesaw and go, that's something that you would use in grade school. But they actually tout it as something that is a K through 12 kind of platform. And they've actually added a blog feature to it so that there is that. I mean, it's as authentic as you can get when you have a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old. It's going to be parents. I mean, this isn't going out. I think she has this password protected. So if I just sent this link out to someone, they're not going to be able to get into it. So if mom and dad want to share it with grandparents and grandparents want to share it with aunts and uncles, as long as they have the password. And so I think it's safe in that regard.
That's what I was going to say from a parent point of view. My son, this is the second or third, I think second year that his teacher has kept a classroom blog. And I mean, that's one of his favorite things on Friday. Mom, read my blog and comment. And so parents knowing what's going on, but them also working on writing for a wider audience. So I think,
For younger, it's great.
from younger, yeah, just that idea of here's what we did at school, here's what we want to share out, here's the most exciting part of the week, like you said. I mean, that's one of his favorite things, to come home
And did you? And I'm sorry, I'm like trying to do two things at one time here. Did you say it was Seesaw?
No,
No.
it's just a part of their website of their class.
Oh,
They have
okay.
a running blog, and I don't know what platform she uses this year, but
Okay.
That's cool.
Can any parent comment on any kids? Could you comment on a different child's stuff or only your own child's?
I've never gone searching because I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't know. And most of them are linked to their website, so I imagine I could search for other.
Because my initial reaction was negative, and because the one or two stories of the mean parent out there,
And
But maybe
Seesaw
we're
and-
also teaching parents something too, Bobby.
Yeah, and I'm not sure with Seesaw. It's one of those where I've got just enough experience to be dangerous with it. In fact, Teresa Oakes was the one that asked the question, and I think she's actually on the document. So, Teresa, if you're listening and you hear this and you can comment, let me know. There is, like, off to the side, the bumblebee, and that I don't think there are kids' names
Right.
that are associated with it. So my assumption is that the kid says, "Oh, I'm in the octopus group,"
Yeah.
and then that's what is there. The comments are all moderated by the teacher, so they approve. And I think there you can do a check mark to not moderate. I mean, you always have the ability of taking a comment off, but I'm fairly certain that Sam does it so that when the comments come in, she has to go in and approve them.
One of the things I like about the using it on just simply a Google Doc is that then you have the history, and you can see really who's doing what, though they're writing their own name on it, and so that could be
So keeping, you mean Google Sites or Google Docs?
No,
So
no,
keep
no,
it
the way I do
on-
it, the way I do it, it's just a document. It's
Which I think
just-
is maybe something good and clear to make out for them, because like mine is a blog feature, yours is a blog feature. but you
Mine
literally
is
just
not.
pull up a
It's
Google
just-
Doc
right,
and they,
ask for the whole.
Well, and I like that because you can see what comment was left, but then taken
Changed,
away,
right,
and then
right. Yeah.
track that through revision history. That's
Yeah.
one of the easiest things.
Well, and this is what Barb uses, and I have taken off last names.
And every kid
Of it.
has to put a different color, so we know when there's a change. And my color
And
is
from-
the exact
I
same
was going to say
color.
from reading it, there was one point you're like, red is my
That's
color,
right.
and
Yeah,
so.
right.
But this is what Barb's looks like. But one thing that I think it might be surprising to you that I'm a Google fan. I could see where you could use this as a platform, even for regular blogging.
Yeah.
The problem being the moderation, because if somebody comments on this, you have to physically go in and look at it. There's no way of kind of warning you.
Mhm.
But I think somebody could go in, and if they don't want to, I mean, I know Courtney, you're in helping you with that, the platforms. Is that the hardest thing about, not the hardest, is that a difficult thing about blogging, is trying to decide what platform to use?
I think it's deciding how to grade it, maintain it. Like that kind of goes like into like when you choose what kind of platform you're going to use.
Because Courtney's the only one that has changed. You're the only one that has tried
Yeah.
different ones.
Well, I used sites the first time I did current events before I had my own, and I like mine now because everything's kind of, there's not as many steps that goes into Google into my class website as there is into a site's. But I think when I was trying to decide if I wanted to switch to something different, like mine came down to how many clicks is it going to take me to be able to look at all of my students' comments, all of my students' posts in one fell swoop, because I don't want to have 12 different tabs open or every single post is a different tab. I want it to be easily accessible because time is money and every click is a second. And like, so yeah, like picking one that was the most, the quickest to get around.
See, and one thing that I liked initially about doing a blog, and when I started it with expository writing, I want it to look like a blog. Like I want it to be something that reflects me. Like this, I don't have a whole lot of ownership other than my color, but it's a different purpose too,
Right.
right? So I wanted it to be something where I feel like kind of part of that presence on the internet,
Yeah.
and not just avoiding a negative presence, but cultivating a positive one. I want this to represent me. I want it to be something that I want to go back and look at. I want to go back and add to because I have some investment in, like, this represents me in a real
Yeah.
way. That's what the bigger you get with it, like I could do it on a small scale in expository writing, and I could give them as seniors all sorts of different freedoms or flexibilities of how to use it within that class. When we say, okay, we're going to use this for all standard juniors, LA 11, then, you know,
Yeah.
it changes. And
Yeah.
so I think that's also something that's kind of gotten lost. I liked EduBlogs because there was a lot that you could do with it to customize it to be something that I'm invested in and I think reflects me. When you try to do that for all juniors, how much time do you want to put into it? How much time do they want to put into it in terms of that
And
learning
is the
curve that I
goal of
mentioned
it-
before?
yeah.
And
The goal of it is to teach them how to like manage their time, because if there are so many steps, I mean, that's one of the hardest things we have to do is if they're going to be able to customize it so much, managing your time on customizing versus managing your time on actually
the
blogging
content
on
of
it.
it, right?
Yeah, because you're right. And then
But if you started them out on something like that early, and then they
Yeah.
every year, then it
Right.
was something that they did. Then
What's the other one that we investigated? The I meant Word
WordPress?
something? No, it's not WordPress though.
I know what you mean.
It was one that's the thing. We're thinking like maybe we jump ship on sites and maybe we change
Yeah.
this, and we're just kind of trying to figure out what we do with it, and if there's enough that we get out of the blog for our purposes in LA 11 that's worth the investment of the time into it. And I don't know.
Would everybody have to blog then? Like, keeping that in mind, what if part of your class was there needs to be some aspect of self-reflection? Would some of them, and I don't know whether you gave them options or whether they had to come up with options, do you think from your experience, would some kids pick blogs?
Over a
I
journal?
don't know. And to me, it's not just self-reflection though. It's getting other people to read your
Yeah, okay.
work. And that's where I think, that's a different aspect of it. You could use your classroom page and just post to have more of a discussion board.
Yeah.
To me, that's the blog without the visual feature to it that I liked initially when we went to that. And I think discussion boards and reacting prepares them for a whole lot of what they're going to do at the college level.
Right.
Where, and again, you can talk about tone and responding to a
Yep.
peer's comments.
Yep.
You can talk about depth. Okay. Oh, that was interesting. Thanks. Doesn't forward the conversation. We talk a lot in LA 11 when we set these up about the idea of this is a informal, more conversational, but this is an academic conversation that should continue to move forward.
Right.
So I think there's some interesting things you can talk about, and that would set them up. Even a discussion board sets them up for what they're going to do a lot, I think, in the future.
And I wonder if like a blog could also be really good, because you said like self-reflection. I know a lot of high school teachers do a participation grade of sorts. Like if for
Google
younger
Forms
grades
and-
and stuff, it'd be really interesting to do like a weekly blog self-reflection. Like, how did you as a student do this week? Right? Especially if you have certain students who are struggling with homework and that type of stuff. Maybe not the whole class is doing a blog, but like this student, like you're monitoring how well they're doing by them doing self-reflection every week in a blog format. Almost, I don't know. That could be a way to
Well,
do
and
self-reflection.
I'm going to put all of you on the spot. Do you have a blog?
I did, yeah. So I think you knew that I had a blog at one point. I did a blog because I'm a teacher and this is what I do in my free time. When I wasn't in grad school, it was a blog about like beauty and all that kind of stuff. And it was fun because it was definitely me being me on there. I got to personalize it. It was like my creative side. So I got to, because I like history and I like doing the critical analysis and I like politics and all that stuff, but like I'm also creative and I have a creative side that like
You don't do it anymore?
no, because grad school stopped me because I was in grad school and so I stopped doing that. But I kept a blog and it was really fun and it was not for anybody else's purpose except for I just enjoyed the creative outlet of a blog and like people
Where was it
who
published?
WordPress published it. But people would like that I didn't know would ask questions about stuff that I loved talking about. Not related to history, but it was makeup that I used or that kind of stuff, which is weird.
Yes,
But,
I remember I came across the blog and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is interesting.
That's-
Probably not my cup of tea. But
I mean, hair products would go a long way.
well, and that's what made me ask the question is, I mean, there's that audience and having an audience read. I've started blogging. It is cathartic.
yeah,
it's-
it's relaxing.
It's stressful though, because
To keep
I
up with it.
can't, like, for me to actually hit publish,
hmm
because I know there are going to be some people that right away say, oh, you misspelled this wrong. There should have been a comma here.
Mhm.
But I think that's part of what makes you a better writer. And I remember an author that I read said, when you start blogging, you have to be willing to have no one read it.
Mhm.
I'd lie if I said I don't check stats. And it's kind of depressing sometimes.
Yeah.
You pour, and mine, like you said, mine is schoolscanbebetter.com.
Mhm.
That's what I blog from. It's not Morton 709.
Mhm.
I can say things that I want to say without, like, maybe I wouldn't say them in front of a group of teachers here. Not that I'm two-faced, no, it's just
Right.
in this position, I know our filter isn't going to change.
Mhm.
And I know this is what the expectation of the community is, but I poured my heart and soul into this one. So here's how you change. Like 10 people saw it.
Mhm.
And you get, but then I looked back at it and I was like, no, but I wrote it to get that.
Mhm.
It
And
helps you
in the
formulate
process, I was
ideas.
just saying, it helps you develop an opinion and like makes you confident in your opinion. Like
Never
when
had
you
any
said-
problems with that,
I
Rachel.
know you haven't. But unlike, I mean, like I don't necessarily want to interject a different opinion from somebody else because I don't agree with some of my peers necessarily all the time. But if I can write it out, if I can type it out, and then they can read it, and then we can have a
It's
discussion.
less confrontational.
It is, but I also feel more confident in my answer. Like if you could read what I said, because I think I can write a lot better than how I can explain myself, right? So you read what I have to say, and then let's talk about that. That's a really cool outlet for students, because then you can say, no, but remember when I wrote this, like, and it gives you more confidence in like trusting that they know exactly what you mean. Because I know if I want to talk about my grad thesis paper, if somebody's read it before they talk to me about it, I'm a lot more confident. I can speak more clearly to what I mean in my opinion. So maybe just helping me develop an opinion and be confident in my opinion. That's kind of, I mean, that's the goal of my blog. Like, I want them to have
post
opinions.
that you do this? I mean, because I didn't know you did, and if you would have posted it on Facebook,
Here's the thing. I don't post it on, excuse me, I've gotten to the point where I use Twitter for the educational stuff.
Mhm.
And I don't, because I know in Facebook it's personal. You know, it's like, I know that there are friends of mine, they could care less that I post an educational blog. I'd probably take more heat
Mhm.
from them. And so I post, but again, I step back from it, and it's like I'm working on right now about culture shaming and what we do to kids, about how anti-Snapchat people are, and kids these days are just lazy, and that's, it's a way for me to just, sometimes I get done and I'm like, okay, I feel really good about that.
Mhm.
But
So you wonder if students have the same reaction? If they were allowed to blog in such a way, like if that's kind of like what your goal hope is for yours, if they could have that same feeling from theirs. I don't know.
Well, it's the whole writing to learn premise though too. Like that's kind of what you're saying. You become more solid in what you think, and it taps into a way of expressing yourself that you do get deeper into your thoughts than you would if you were speaking it too. And I want to say that, like, I think with my expository writing class or something, it would be great to say, hey, just everybody's going to keep a blog. It's the reality though of we're still in a academic setting where, well, what's going to be graded? Why am I going to do it? I don't think we have enough, and maybe it's because we don't allow those opportunities for them to feel that from an intrinsic point of view rather than an external. But I don't know that we have enough people motivated to do that without the
in the English
being held over
classes where they have a journal.
Yeah.
So isn't this the same thing?
Well, I do have them keep a writer's notebook.
Right. So isn't that but it's just not live?
But it's not other people.
yeah,
They're sitting around talking about it, reading it to each other, not I'm reading what you wrote and I'm going to respond in writing. So I think it's still that authentic audience, and it's me giving you the prompt. I mean, that's what you said is the difference in both of your situations, and it's just this is something you care deeply about that you want to share out. And that's why we're doing this Anonymous Extraordinaries project in LA 11. If we do the blog second semester, we think we're going to tie it more to that. And then, so everybody who has an environmental focus, well, you talk to each other across classes about something you're all interested in. But still, would you be doing that if it wasn't in response to a project in the first place? So you always have that outside construct to it.
Getting close here on the time that I told you we would be done. There is a question here about how much storage does a student have on their blog? Could it be a place used for students to post videos several times throughout a semester? And my reaction would be, depends on the service. Like Google Sites, there would be an unlimited amount. EduBlogs, I don't know. There's, if you're posting a couple of minute videos, I don't know about unlimited, but you'd probably be able to do that quite a bit. I know WordPress that I use, there's a limit on video, because I've struggled with that too. I think I'm a better this than I am a writer, but then that's why I should write, because that's the way I'm going to get better at that if I do it. So
I think it depends, because but that's because I don't want them to I don't want it to be about the image. I want it to be about the writing. So I have a limit on how much they can put, but that's me choosing the limit.
Okay.
So.
Closing thoughts at all? And I'm not trying to tell you have to have one.
No.
It's still a work in progress. I mean, I've still tried to, since I started it, which I don't remember how long ago in expository writing, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, but I've just used it in different ways and tried to keep formulating it so it works for
Mhm.
something that has the end goal that I want. I'm still obviously not completely there, but
Well, and to me, that's key with anything. I didn't know how this was going to go
Mhm.
at all. I mean, you try it and you step back from it and say, okay, this worked and this didn't work.
Mhm.
And I wish in education we move like snails
Mhm.
to change anything. And I think it is that we're scared of making mistakes and failing, and sometimes it does. I mean, my biggest fear was the internet was going to be down. This wasn't going to work. This wasn't going to work. But
Well, and I think that's my first year I did the blog. I halfway through the semester I was like, I can't keep up with this grading. I can't keep up with like what I was doing on Google Sites, and so I had to change the format of it because I was swamped, like just floundering. And so yeah, like you, like, I'm still working to try to make this what I want it to be, and I've messed up a lot in the process. But I'm looking for something. I know I want this end result, and I'm trying to figure out how to get there.
And it's interesting that we do have such different end results, which makes a lot of sense because we're
Mhm.
teaching different stuff,
Yeah.
and our focus is so different. But it can be done.
Mhm.
You just gotta try.
okay, well, thank you all very much for coming and talking.
yeah,
Thanks, yeah.
Hopefully,